Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday morning teaching live stream. This morning stream is the hardest for me. I'm a very slow person in the morning. That doesn't mean I don't do things. I'm just very slow about it. And sometimes the time to start creeps up on me, but I was pretty ready because I had a lot to gather today and get together. It was yarns and notebooks. I went through the breed study files, which you can see the two plastic containers back there. Those contain all the breed study files. Just in general, pulling a lot of information, getting my iPad because I'm going to be using it. So anyway, we got it all together, and then today's hubby's birthday, and he was a little chatty about making his cake, and but we're on our way. There's no music today, and I need to do one more click here. Sorry. Okay. There is no music today because I am also recording this with the podcast recording software, and that's what I just clicked on. And I'm doing that on purpose because I'm talking about something I want to talk about in the podcast anyway. It really works for me to do a recording at the same time, but the music is kind of in the way. Plus, on this kind of live stream, I'm talking all the time, and the music is not as enjoyable as it is if I'm just sitting and spinning and not talking. So, no music today, and we are going to be talking about the Shave 'em to Save 'em passport program, incentive. I don't know exactly what they call it, but it's a livestock conservancy program that they ran for several years, 3 years, I think, 2019, 20, and 21. It will end in December of this year. So it's coming to an end. And I have talked about this a lot over the last year. I've talked about it a little bit before. I kind of found it early in 2020 and joined up and bought the fiber, and I have been spinning over 2020. So all of the yarns that you see today, I spun during 2020. Now, going forward this year, I have the remainder of the fibers that I purchased for the passport to spin. And so you're going to hear more about it, but you're going to hear more specifically about spinning each of the fibers as I spin it, and more specifically on the stream, see me spinning the fibers. Okay. And some of these were spun on streams last year. I really think that it's beyond my research capability right now to give you what streams, because they're no longer on Twitch. They went up to YouTube, where I put them, and a lot of times I'm going to post a name here that you can find I can't post a link. The YouTube links just don't go through, but I'll post my name so that you can search the name on YouTube, and then you'll find whatever videos, and I'll talk about that and do that periodically. I'm getting a little off topic here. Let me talk about what we call the SESE program, sometimes SE2. Okay, Shave 'em to Save 'em passport. This is for sheep. I'm going to back up just a little bit and go broader about the Livestock Conservancy. It is a United States program for saving the genetics of unusual, rare, old, heritage breeds of all sorts of animals. They have cattle and poultry and swine and, of course, sheep. And so when you go to the Livestock Conservancy website, and that you can get there just typing that in, when you go to their website, you'll see, after all the front page stuff, a listing, and depending on what you want to look for, you click that link, and if you click sheep, it brings up another list of clickable links, and underneath on the very bottom of that is a passport, SESE passport listing. And that's what you would click to get where I'm at and talking about today. There is something they are doing right now, and I know that so much of this, especially the podcast, you will listen to way past this date or whatever. All I'm really saying is it pays to make this website part of your occasional checking out, or get on their Facebook or Ravelry group, because they do various things now and then to encourage spinners to use the fiber from the breeds of sheep that they have in their program. Okay. Not just because it's on the passport, but in general. And what they're doing right now is not the passport. They're starting tomorrow through the end of March a little incentive to make a pair of mittens with a breed from their list. Okay, so this is really good if you've already got the yarn spun, and I would do it if I wasn't involved in sock madness and getting ready to have surgery. It just was poor timing. But periodically, you do need to check and see if it's something you would like to do. It is, I consider it a donation because there is usually a nominal fee in order to do this. There's usually prizes, but it's more of a support. And when I pay for, like when I paid for the passport program, I consider it a donation to keep that organization active because I agree with what they're doing. So the Livestock Conservancy is dealing with a lot of different breeds. And if you have interest in breeds beyond sheep, there's something else you ought to check out. And there are farmers all across the United States who are raising these breeds. And the passport program was developed in order to encourage fiber artists, and I'm not going to just say spinners, but fiber artists, to purchase the fiber or yarn from these specific breeds and make a project. Now, the project is always the next step from what you bought. So if you buy fiber, you spin yarn. You can go on and knit, but that's not going to count twice. You only need one step, okay? If you buy yarn, you knit something. If you buy fiber, you can felt something. If you buy fiber, you can make a picture with it, with the free-form felting. What I'm saying is just take what you buy to the next step for it to qualify. They are doing this in groups of 5 to qualify for a prize. And what I am planning to do today is something I have really procrastinated about, and that's actually get my yarns submitted to the Livestock Conservancy. And I'll talk about that as I'm working on it and what it really needs to do. It really is not that bad. It's a picture with the passport book. Send it, attach it to an email, and send it in. So once you have done 5 breeds, then you qualify for a prize. There are people who have done the 15 breeds. There's more than 15, but some are very hard to find. Total in all is, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I lost count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. So as you can tell, you can get 15 out of there, even though some are very difficult to get a hold of. I think I have 13 or 14. I will figure this out as I get these taken care of and then get into the fibers that I need to spin. I'm pretty sure I have about 6 more that need processing or just spun, but that's something that I'm going to do next step after I get this out. I don't know why I procrastinated about it. I should have just taken care of this as soon as I spun the fibers. It just felt like, well, I procrastinated by saying I'm going to wash the yarns. And then I thought I would reskein the yarns because they're not pretty beauty skeins, right? they're been handled, they've been washed, they've been hung to dry, you know. But I have decided that that's enough procrastination. Let's get this done. So let's see, what else do I want to tell you about? I don't think there's anything else about the Livestock Conservancy. Let me go over to the other camera. And as you can see, I'm going to turn myself around here a little bit. This is the passport, and I have some yarn here. I have the actually first one that I have done in the passport book, which is called Hog Island. They have in here that it is country of origin is Britain, but it's also raised in the United States. And that's one of the very first things that is absolutely essential. The fiber has to be bought in the United States, and you have to have 4 ounces of it. Now, they aren't requiring a photo that shows that you got 4 ounces of yarn. They only are requiring that you show the sticker that you bought it from, because every vendor who is an SESE vendor has these stickers. That's how they can connect the fact that this qualifies for the passport. This is a passport sticker. Pretty cool, isn't it? I'm going to really cherish this when it's all done. Anyway, this shows that I bought the fiber in August 2020 from a farm called Mad Grinkle Farm. Now, what I did not do is write down I got the date purchased. That's one thing it says here is date purchased. The next thing it says is what is the project. So, I will say skein of yarn. And the last is date completed. I am hoping that I have that information in my Ravelry. You will see me have my iPad out a lot during this as I gather data, because I make a Ravelry page. I intend to make a Ravelry page for every skein of yarn that I spin. I don't always get it done. And that's another thing I'll be checking today, is to see if I actually have it. I happen to know that I have this first one. Okay. So what I need to do is find out, I don't really probably need to write this on here, but I'm going to. And it's actually 2 skeins of yarn. And let's check and see if I can find a completed date. And I want this filled out before I take the picture, just because, Okay. And I am right here. And I completed it on October 5th, 2020. So let me write this, 10/5/2020. At this point, I now have pretty much everything I need for the passport photo. I want to edit this page just a little bit because I did not get my start date in there, which I'm going to look real quick and see if I have in my notes here. Because that was the purchase date. That wasn't the start date. This was roving, and let me see this is the one thing I haven't done. So I finished it in October, which was not Tour de Fleece. So let me go to my daily notes. Oh, that's not good. My notes. Oh no, this isn't the right notes. Okay. There we go. There we go. October 2nd. Hog Island. All right, very good. I started October 2nd, I spun on the 3rd, and I finished it on the 4th, and I plied it on the 5th. Oh, I've got that. Okay, I'm all set on that. The start date was what I wanted, and that was I started on October 2nd. I can put that in Ravelry. Okay. That's what I wanted. Go back to 2020, and October 2nd is the start date. Yay! Anything else I want to put in here? Oh, and this is the yarn. This is not the fiber. All right. Spun it on the Roberta. Okay. Only checking here to make sure that I have in here that it was roving. I am looking for fiber prep and roving. And I'll save that. And that really is pretty good notes as far as for completeness and what I want to know. Let me talk a little bit here about, it was 4.2 ounces when I bought it, and as I said, it's Mad Grinkle Farm, and they are in Lexington, Virginia. Okay, it's an off-white, very low vegetable matter, but did have the short neps in it. It was really springy, and that is one of the biggest things I remember about this. It doesn't have quite the spring now that I've spun it, but I remember this is the kind of fiber that feels springy instead of springy, but springy, right? It's almost like you can feel the lamb in it jumping around. I cannot ever not have an image of a frolicking lamb when I spin a fiber that has a lot of bounce to it. Okay. So therefore, I had some trouble finding a way to draft it, and I played around a lot with the drafting. I did spin this on the Roberta, and I couldn't pinch and pull. Okay, it was too short. You pull and you run out of staple length. So I was not able to go to my normal way of spinning when I'm spinning a shorter fiber. And that meant that, well, okay, it's a roving, everything's all mixed up together. Let's see if I can draft out as a long draw. Well, I did get that better. It was not a true long draw. It was run down there, and then I would pull. Okay, it's a long draw, but it's very short, and a lot of times I'm pinching instead of pinching and pulling out of my left hand, and that's why it's a semi-woolen process for spinning it, because when you do a semi-woolen, when you do a true woolen long draw, you do not pinch anywhere where the twist is running. And if you pinch at any time while you're doing that, it's called semi-woolen. Okay, I have talked about that before, but it always is good to hear it again and think about it. But the real point I want to make about this, spinning this fiber, is the fact that you're not always going to be able to spin your comfort zone when you work with all these different breeds of sheep. And that is one of the main reasons I have always encouraged spinning something different than you are used to. Spinning a breed that is different. even if you home process it and don't have a chance to find the roving or whatever, it's still good to spin a breed that's different, because the variation in the staple length, the variation in the crimp, all of the variation that the sheep breed has will be felt in your hand as you're spinning, and you're going to have to figure out the best way to draft it and get a yarn out of it. Okay, so I ended up with 2 skeins. I actually don't remember why. I think mostly because after I applied this, I was using the 1 yard plastic pipe skein winder I have, and this was just going to fall off. I mean, it was getting too thick, and so I went ahead and made a second one. It really doesn't matter to me. It's going to probably go into the same project, but I ended up with 2 skeins for that reason. It is a bulky yarn. This one here, I ended up with it says 12 wraps per inch, but it's deceiving. And I should actually, that was pre-washing, so I really need to measure that again, but it's deceiving because when you wrap an inch thing, there is no way you can prevent from pulling on that a little bit, and this has bounce, right? So when you are measuring wraps per inch on a yarn that has a fair amount of bounce to it, you're probably not going to get a real accurate wraps per inch. You can be really super careful and not pull, which I do, but I still feel that 12 wraps per inch, it's not that it's inaccurate. It's just, it feels like this is a bulky yarn, and 12 wraps per inch is not a wraps per inch for a bulky yarn. What's going to happen though when I knit with this is it's also squishy when you knit with it, and it's going to squish together on the stitches next to each other, especially if I go down a needle size a little bit. If I knit on a bigger needle size, it'll relax, it'll have a lot of room, you'll have a real stretchy, springy knitted fabric. But if you go down a little bit and knit it a little tighter, it'll kind of push everything together, and you will probably get a gauge that's closer to what a 12 wraps per inch yarn would do. That has no documentation, variation. I mean, I have no absolute proof that that's true. That is experience and what I have seen and felt as I spin and knit and that sort of thing. But I do think it's something to keep in mind. When you are working with a Springer yarn, you're going to end up having a wraps per inch that doesn't seem right to you or accurate for how the yarn looks. Let's see, what else? I got, it's a 2-ply. This is 104 yards, and this I think is 67. So I have 171 yards of this. Not going to be a big project. Maybe going to get put together with something else. Doesn't matter to me at this point in time, because what I am submitting for the passport is the fact that I spun the yarn. So that's Hog Island, and I think I am ready to try and do a pretty picture of it. I am going to put this one together, kind of tuck my tie things in, make a nice little ball there like that, and this one I am going to leave. We'll make a little smile face there, and this needs to go where it gets in the folder. And I think, even though you don't see the entire thing, I think that's going to be really good for me for a picture. So let me take this with my iPad. Camera. All right. Well, I got the chair leg in there, but that's all right. And let's scooch this just a mob. Don't want too much shadow there. Oh, that's perfect. Light is good. By the way, this yarn is what I call a dirty white. It wasn't dirty. It's an off-white that is more brown than yellow. And I may throw this in a dye pot. I mean, I think it would be fun to have this dyed a pretty color that I can put with something else, some other project, and have some color with it, right? So that is the end of Hog Island for the Shave 'em to Save 'em passport. And we're going to go on because I have lots. I have lots to do. I need a basket to put these in now that I'm done. And I don't have one. So let's just sit them right here. Okay. The only thing I need to do is take that photo that I put into my Ravelry because I want to keep it there. And then there is an email address which you can get at either the Facebook group for Shave 'em to Save 'em or the Ravelry group for Shave 'em to Save 'em. And you email to that email this photo that I just took and say, this is one I want to have qualified. All right. So these that I'm working on are called critical. All right, these that the Hog Island is considered critical. That is, there's so few numbers. I mean, the genetics is critical for keeping alive, right? And under the critical is a Florida cracker, which I have not found any fiber for. A Gulf Coast native, which I have the fiber for that needs carded before I spin it. The Hog Island, which I just talked about. Santa Cruz, which I have not been able to find anything. It is supposedly a true United States origin breed, so it would be fun to find that. Now, that's the end of the critical. So the next thing is, there's more around. There's more genetics. It's the largest group. It's still considered threatened. Still need to have a lot of breeders working on it, but it's not it's not at risk of disappearing completely if people don't. All right, there are enough breeders of it to put it up into the next category, which is threatened. The first one is Black Welsh Mountain, and these are just alphabetical. Okay, so excuse me, I'll get a drink here. So Black Welsh Mountain, I have spun tons and tons and tons of over my spinning life, and I did not want to spin more Black Welsh Mountain for this. I could not use anything I spun because I didn't have the passport sticker. And so the Black Welsh Mountain, I actually showed on the stream, my last stream on Sunday. And that was the vest that I'm knitting. And it's lacy. It's a lace weight. It was commercially spun by a Black Welsh breeder. I did get the sticker for buying the yarn. I had to buy 4 ounces of it. I'm a little concerned. I may have to contact her and get some more, and I need to have it knitted by the end of this year. It's going to be my longest project for this, but I'm really enjoying the knit. I like the resulting fabric that I'm getting out of this, and I love actually knitting with the black more than I thought I would. So that one is going to be towards the end of the year before I get it submitted. The next one is Clune Forest, which I don't have. And then we have Cotswold. And I have fiber for that, which I haven't spun yet. And the next one is Dorset Horn, and I have fiber for that. So the Dorset Horn is the one we're going to talk about next. I have to figure out which one it is. It should be this one. All right. Remember I said I called the one a dirty white and this one a yellow white? It's just very yellow, and that's just a result of the staining that happens on the fleece. They call it yoking, but there's just always also dirt on the tips of the fleece if it's not a coated fleece, and all of these are not going to be coated. They're not considered prima donnas, right? They're raising them for multiple purposes, and the fiber is just one of the many reasons they're raising them. And so and since they're working with a breed of sheep that not many people are raising, they're working with a limited genetic pool, and sometimes that means improvements aren't made. If you have a limited genetic pool, you can't get some of the better qualities to a certain thing like fleece by breeding with, let's say, a Romney, or breeding with another breed of sheep, because that no longer keeps the genetics pure. You have to breed the true to breed, right? So you have to, in this case, breed a Dorset horn to a Dorset horn. Well, if you do that, you have very limited sources of your genetics. And if you keep your flock going and you save a ram from your flock, it's still the same genetics, right? Now they can get past this with the frozen semen and that sort of thing, and I know they do that. So there is a way to improve it, and some of the breeders have that specific goal. Some breeders are just having a small flock. They enjoy the fact that they're keeping this genetics alive, and which is what I would be, right? If that's the kind of breeder I would be if I was raising sheep. And therefore, what I'm really starting to say, having gone all around that, is that's why there are not always real high quality fleeces, and you get coloration on the fleece, or they're not kept, they're on pasture and they get out in the rain and they get muddy and that sort of thing, and the fleece gets stained. And so you have variations of white, and it can be hard to know what a true breed will look like. Everyone's going to be a little different depending on their environment and their diet and all sorts of things, right? So when I say that this is a yellowish color, that may not be true of all Dorset horn you get, or when I go on and talk about the other breeds. Just know that it's sheep specific. All right. So the Dorset horn, I'm going to first of all go to my Ravelry and let's see if I made a page for it. Because that, if I did, that is the best. Where's my search here? Go to my stash and search it. Whoops. Search. That's so funny. I searched. Here it is. I've got Dorset horn. And it did come from Walhalla. Yeah. And it brought up Horn Dorset also, which is actually a totally different breed. The Dorset horn is the one that we needed for. Okay. Let's see what I got here. I purchased it March 11th, 2020. And where's my yarn? Did I not make yarn? Let me go to my yarn and see if I hand spun. See if I made a project page for this. More than likely I didn't. I was so overwhelmed by the middle of 2020. Nope, I didn't. All right. I will quickly make one here, and I will update it here in after the stream. All right, so add to fiber stash. Oh, no, I already have that. Go back. Stash. Fiber. Let's see, it says alphabetical. I should be able to find it pretty quick here. Well, oh, it's under Walhalla. Okay. Once you make a fiber stash, then there's a little make yarn, and that's very easy. And I am just going to say that I got to find a start and finish date. So, not as easy as the last one. Although, I thought I saw it right here. That's the... Oh, according to this, the Cotswold's done. Okay. Here it is. Dorset Horn. And this is one that I live streamed, actually on October 7th. And there is a small skein somewhere. Wonder where that is. 133 yards. Oh no, that's Cotswold. I know where that is. Okay. Alright. So I started on October 7th. And I finished on applied it on the 9th. And it's 4 ounces of fiber. It doesn't take long. Okay. And I want to put in that it is, and I will talk about it. I did not take a lot of notes as I was spinning this because I was talking on the live stream. So that's probably why there's not a lot of notes there. But this has 133 yards. It is a 12 wraps per inch. It is a 2-ply, and it has 133 yards. All right, that's the basics in there, and I will take a picture and put the picture in there. So let's see. I wonder if I can... All right, let's talk about this just a little bit. I spun it on the Roberta, and I'm pretty sure I used semi-worsted, just like I was talking about with the other. Although it did have, it was roving, and let's see if I sent any kind of notes here. I really did not take any kind of notes. Okay. Sorry. It is not as springy. Let's just talk about the skein and what I can tell you outside of the basics that it's an off-white and it looks a little closer to the 12 wraps per inch. It's really nice, consistent 2-ply. I like the feel of the yarn. It's soft to my hands. It is not exactly soft to my neck. It has a little bit of prickle. It is a medium prickle. Spun really nice though as a commercially prepped roving, which is what this was. All right. And I just untied a tie here. My goodness. Let's get this straightened out and tie it up. I tie with a very loose knot, and a lot of times it'll work itself loose. Smells good. I always wash my skeins with soak, S-O-A-K, and it has a good fragrance. You can choose it unscented, but I like the fragrance. This, I'm sure, would knit up to wonderful mittens. There's not enough yardage in this, but as a breed to spin for one that's outside of your, especially if you can find it commercially prepped, it's going to be a really nice one to spin, because the fact that I spun that in 2 days means that I spun 2 ounces, or 3 days. I spun 2 ounces at each sitting, and that's generally 2 hours, right? So very quick spin and very nice, actually consistent yarn. I bought this from a place called Wohela Tunis, because their main breed that they raise is the Tunis sheep. But she is the one that sells a fiber product called Sheep with a Face. And it's, for those of you who listen to this on the podcast, I'll be putting links to all this. And I have linked it in the past, I know, a lot of times. Every time I talked about one of these breeds on the podcast, I have put the links in. So the nice thing is she has gone all over her area and gotten with breeders who are raising the sheep that are not as common and taking it to a mill. And so her fiber comes prepped in what looks like a big yarn skein, in that it's wrapped all around itself in oh gosh, what am I trying to say? It looks like a packaged yarn skein, right? Except that it's all compacted and it has a label on it. But the thing about it is that it has a center pole presentation. So you can, just like a skein of yarn, go into the center, find the end, and spin from the center while it's still in that format. Now, I had a little bit of trouble with that. I loved the idea. I thought, oh man, that's wonderful. I did have a little bit of trouble with it wanting to stick and pull apart and not finding the other end and that sort of thing. And some of them, because I wanted to divide it in half anyway, I went ahead and pulled it all out and found half of it to make my one single and half for the other single. So it was a little bit of a waste for me, but the idea of it was so intriguing. I was so excited about it when I saw it. And wherever she gets this fiber process, the mill is doing that. And I've never seen another mill do that. And I don't know where the mill is. At this point, she's not ever revealed that in my communications with her. So, this is Dorset, ends the information, what little I have for the Dorset horn. And I know that there are other podcasts and live streams and That's not going to be real helpful for this right here today. But live streaming and podcasting are two different things. The podcasting is more of a record keeping and will hang around for a long, long, long time. The live streams are more immediate, and a lot of times, so that I can answer questions, I don't have any viewers today right now, so nobody's asking any questions. But the live stream is a more immediate, and that's why it works for the teaching. Let me take a picture of this I need to write down my dates here. On here. Purchased it 03 11 20. Yarn Skein is the project. And I completed it, come back to Ravelry on 10/9/20. All right. Now I'll take a picture. I'm doing this to cover up the other label. I want to get just the Dorset Horn label, so let me see if I can get this situated. I'm trying to get this skein to be prettier here. Let's give it a little twist, maybe. Yeah, that shows how, I think what I was saying when I said it's a really nice two-ply, I'm back to talking about it again, is it's crisp. Okay, I said that it's soft to my hands but a little prickle. That means there's some crispness to the yarn. And that crispness means that, it sounds like Christmas, that crispness means that you're going to get really good stitch definition. Okay. You're also going to get a pretty consistent fabric where they lay together nice and they're not being pushed together or whatever, especially if you get exactly the right needle for whatever gauge that you're working with. So much of this is turning out to be about knitting with hand spun, and that has always been a topic for me because I have all this yarn that I make. I need to use it. I need to knit with it. So knitting with hand spun is always a topic. There we go. Got Dorset Horn taken care of. It's going to be a race between the 2 hours. K's on Coffee, thank you. I appreciate you saying somebody's listening. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself, and I love the fact that you're soaking up the information. That's great. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And I like your name. I am a coffee drinker. All right, let's go on to the next one, which should be Cotswold. Cotswold, where's Cotswold? If I could easily move my, well, I think I can, maybe. There's all the skeins yet to come. Sitting out there on the bed, waiting. So I gotta find Cotswold. I think it's this gray one. Alright, we're gonna come back to Cotswold because it's gray, and I want to do all my gray ones on the white tablecloth. So let's go on. Next one is Jacob, which I have a raw fleece, and I will need to process that. I will wash it first, but I will be showing that on a live stream sometime. Jacob is an amazing fleece because it has multicolors. And what I always think of, and I have no idea if there's any historical connection, but I always think of the biblical Jacob's coat of many colors. Now, that could be just as simple as the sheep had a lot of colors, and so the coat was made out of the wool, or it could be easily the fact that they had dyes, right? But I do think of that whenever I hear of the Jacob fleece. We have, next is Caracol, and I have that, and I need to process that. So let's see. Next is Lester Longwall, and remember we're still in the threatened, which means not critical, but the next step towards improving. It's called the threatened. And Lester Longwall is gray. We'll go back to that. So that's Lincoln, and I know Lincoln is white. Here's my Lincoln. Yep, this is the Lincoln yarn, and that is not two skeins. The difference now, what you're seeing here, is that this is done on my 2 skein Nitty Knotty. So you get 2 yards for each wrap instead of 1. And that's why it's a nice, big, long skein. I got into doing these because my state fair required the yarn that was submitted for judging to be on a 2-yard skein, and that was to give the judge lots of area to look at and, pick it apart and say, your singles are over twisted and all sorts of things, right? They judge good. But anyway, that's why it's on a bigger skein. I got in the habit of doing it, and I kind of like it. The problem with the bigger skein is when I'm ready to wind it into a cake, a ball, to knit with, I have to get a bigger skein winder out, right? The great big one that I can fit this on, or have my husband hold it, so, or somebody, right? So storage-wise, I like it, especially if I'm trying to wash it. I like it. It opens up a lot of the fiber and not so compacted. It dries quicker and everything. So that's just a little tidbit on the 2-yard skein. So let me look up Lincoln. This is called Lincoln. You can also hear it called Lincoln Longwool. Okay, and the reason is because that's a type of breed, the longwool breed. And it's a longwool breed because the staple length, the locks, are very, very long. And totally different now than what we've been spinning or showing you up till now. Long wools spin totally different. This also came from Woolhalla, and oops, wrong one. Let me see if I have let's see, hand spun. I have spun Lincoln beyond this. This is not new to me. I had a friend years and years ago who actually raised Lincoln. So I have a fair number of Lincoln. Here it is, Woolhalla Lincoln. And I actually have a picture and everything on there. And I have all the information. Oh, I love it when I keep my notes up to date. So I did purchase this on March 9th, or March 11th. And the project is skein of yarn. I've said that 3 different ways now. That's all right. Okay, and I finished it July 18th. Now I'm going to go to my daily notes because I don't put notes into Ravelry. As far as the spinning process, that's just almost too much. I jot it down in a notebook, but I finished it on July. So this more than likely was a Tour de Fleece. So the first time around, Tour de Fleece yarn that I spun. Where are we here? I have Tour de Fleece notes. So let's get those. Here we go. All right. I was spinning on it that's June, July. All right. I applied it on the 18th, so when did I spin it? This was exactly when I started live streaming during this period of time, too. Here it is. And so I spun it starting on the 12th of July. And it says that I was spinning on the Ara. Okay. And it is roving that I purchased. It came from Walhalla, Tunis. And it was one of those center pole balls, or I hate to say ball because it's not round, but tubes. I think the tubes might be the best concept anyway. And just as a little side, that was the day we lost our internet for a period of time. I mean, days. We had a huge storm, took down part of a nut tree. I mean, it was a big storm here. So, not unusual in July. I don't have any notes about spinning it, and I wish I did. And all I have is that I spun the 2 and I plied it. All right. I will talk about what I know about Lincoln in general anyway. And then it will be specific. First of all, on this yarn, it is soft to my hands, but prickly to more prickly even to my neck. And one of the reasons it has the prickle, if it is way fuzzier. This is, you can see, the camera is actually doing a really good job showing the halo there. And that is, oh, wait a minute, don't restart now. Oh gosh, Windows. Not now. Go away. Okay, so it has a halo. And I love that halo. Because when you knit with it or, or even brush it a little bit, it just makes a very nice texture. But you have to put up with the prickle. So it's not a next to the skin generally texture for most Lincolns. Okay. This is real white, and I love that whiteness. It doesn't look real white on there, but it truly is. Of all the yarns, this and the next one are the whitest, and it's too shadowy there. Can't see it. Let's see. I have here's my tag here. It's a 2-ply. I did everything a 2-ply this way. Didn't mess with it because I was going for the most yardage out of my 4 ounces. And so I did a 2-ply for everything. It has 170 yards. And it is a 13 wraps per inch. And I will call it a true wraps per inch is true because it is not at all bouncy. A long wool has a staple which means a lock. If you would take one lock and hold it between your fingers and go snap, snap, nothing would part, right? That's an entire lock. The entire lock will be at 6 to 8, sometimes up to 10, very long. And when you have those long locks, sometimes you have a lot of shorter fibers intertwined inside of the lock. We see this when we get a dual coated like the Icelandic, and you can pull the tog off and have the thell left. But they have bred that tendency out of a lot of sheep, and so the long locks are all there, but still have some of that shorter stuff inside of that lock, right? And that's what's making the halo, the fuzz. What else do I want to say here? It's not as consistent of a spin. And when I have a long lock fiber, I prefer to spin it by a lock. And I can get a lot thinner if I spin it by the lock. But this was already processed. It was in a roving. That means the locks were all jumbled up. And so I would get a tendency to get a little bit thicker areas, thinner areas. It's not bad. It's not as bad as some because it was well processed. It wasn't sticky or anything, right? So it spun smoothly. It's just that you would, as I was drafting out, some of the area, that drafting zone would have more fibers in it than the others because that was in the roving that way from the different lengths of fiber in the lock when it was processed. Very, very detailed technical stuff, not really important because the bottom line is the yarn is a wonderful, if you like wool, yarn. And I have come to the conclusion that, there are two of us that, and we will look at wool differently. You will look at wool differently than I look at wool. I, over the years, have developed a love of wool and the wool fiber and wearing wool and that sort of thing. So it doesn't bother me that it's not merino soft. But there are those who are coming from the knitting past and then getting into spinning yarn and that sort of thing, and they want that soft fiber. They want the very thin yarns and that sort of thing because they are trying to mimic what the commercial yarn is. When you work with different breeds for a long time, you come to learn that it's pretty hard to make a sheep that's not a merino into a merino yarn. You have to make the yarn that the sheep is. And I have called it the yarn talks to me, the yarn tells me what it wants to be. But the truth is that yarn is kind of basic across a lot of breeds. So you get a lot of yarn that is 12 wraps per inch, that is, maybe 120 yards to 4 ounces. And it could be this breed or that breed or another breed. And you'll end up with this kind of the same wool yarn because it's sort of the basic, this is what wool wants to be. And breeds will be different, right? Because the staple length will be different. Like I just said before, they'll be different in how you spin them. But sometimes you end up with the same yarn, even though you pinch and pull or you do a long draw. You still end up with the same kind of yarn because that's your basic wool skein of yarn. So anyway, the one thing about, and there's always specific breed characteristics, and the one thing about the long wools is they'll have what they call a luster. And that just means the yarn has just a little bit of shine, smoothness to it. And I just talked all about the halo, right? So what am I talking about? Well, it's a visual thing. It's not a feel. It's not a smoothness that you feel. It's a smoothness as you look at the skein yarn and the light reflects just a little bit back on to you, and that makes it just feel like it has a little bit of luster to it. Also, that'll happen when you knit with it. Especially the knitted fabric will have that halo, but pretty good shine to it, even though it's not a iridescent glow in the dark or anything that really can be classified as a shine. You put their various different wools together, you almost always can pick out a long wool because there's just that brightness to it that you don't see in a lot of skeins of other breeds of wool. Okay, I think that ends the Lincoln, and I am going to try and take its beauty shot here. Let's see how I'm going to do this. This is the part that don't feel bad, podcast listeners, it's not even all that interesting for the people who are watching live stream. And by the way, if you're a podcast listener and are not listening to my podcast. I have 13 years worth of talking about all this kind of stuff. So let me see if I have my link here anymore. Does that work? Oh, please say it works. Huh. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure what else I'd put it in. Let's go with just a direct link. It's just under Yarn Spinner's Tales. Let's just do that. And that's where my podcasts are hosted. And you'll have to go to the archives to find, you'll find the most recent ones at the top of the page, but you have to go to the archives to find anything older. But they do have titles. So if you're looking for a specific topic, you can just browse through the archives and you'll see the title of the podcast. And that might help you find something that you want to know about. All right, I am trying to figure out the two. And this came untied. That's why it's looking so messy. Let's tie this again. It didn't go through its bass very good and stay tied. Now, let's see if I can snap this some. I just have a loosey-goose part of the skein. And I think if I go like this, cover the book up, as I go silent, trying to tuck and make it pretty. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let me take a picture here. Hi, Head Full of Bees. How are you? I saw you were streaming earlier. It is a fantastic slogan. It is a fantastic. Shave 'em to save 'em just says it, doesn't it? It says it right then. I have, it's been about a year now since I've known about it, and I have loved the program. All right. So there we go. Lincoln is now officially documented with the passport, and I will, of course, like I said, be submitting this to the email. And that makes 3. I'm heading towards 5 here. I have 6 actually, but let's do I have a Lester Longwell? What do I have left here? Cotswold. This is, okay, Lester Longwell, I said is great. Let's do the last white one, which is big, fat, fluffy I Am Yarn. Let's see this breed. This is, okay, you're not going to believe this. This is Shetland. All right, you remember the ring shawls? Oh, no. Yes. Oh. But who isn't these days? Okay, so she was streaming. She forgot there was an online class. And poor kid had to, did they have to miss the class? And they're late making dinner. Head full of bees. Let me give you a shout out here. Except your name is tedious to type. All right. There you go. There's your shout out. Okay, we're going to talk about Shetland. And before I do that, I need to finish up this. We're going to get out of the threatened. All right. We'll go back to it when we do the Lester Longwell. But there's Navajo Churro is threatened. California variegated mutant Ramondale, that's threatened. Um, and what else? Where does it go? And St. Croix, which I have fiber for all of these. Some needs processed, washed, and all that. Then we get into the next, which is watch. So they're improving, right? They got one more step and they can drop off of the off of the Livestock Conservancy program if they improve that much. So we're now into the watch, and Barbados blackbelly is just absolutely impossible to find. I have not been able to find any of that. I also don't have any Oxford or Shropshire or Tunis, and I can fix the Tunis because the lady that I bought a lot of the other fibers from has Tunis. So it's a matter of contacting her and get it. And the last one is Wiltshire Horn. Now, most of these breeds are originally from England, but this Livestock Conservancy is a United States program, so they want it from a United States breeder, and they want the breeder to be part of the Shave 'em to Save 'em program. So that means, right, if I have Tunis sticking around in my fiber stash, I can't use it. I have to buy it specifically for that, and it's just 4 ounces. All right. Now, that means we are on the last 2, and these are recovering, and that's a good thing. I don't know at what status they will finally take them off, considered recovered sufficiently that the genetics is sufficient in the United States that they are no longer needing watched. And the 2 are Shetland and Southdown. There is always a huge difference between the genetics of Shetland in the United States and Shetland overseas, or any of these breeds. When they bring them over here into a different environment, you really do end up with different, just almost a different breed. Now, it's not hugely obvious, right? But let's just say that the Shetland that are being raised in the United States, they came originally sometime from the European area, right? England, probably. Shetland, Scotland, sorry. My geography is terrible sometimes. But anyway, when they brought it over here, they could only use the United States. Once the Livestock Conservancy program became existing, it came into existence, they could only use the American Shetland to breed with it. And so they were, again, as I was talking about before, using the same genetics that were here and growing in the flocks. So there is some difference. Now, this feels like Shetland that I have felt from anywhere, right? It's soft, no prickle, it's bouncy, it's stretchy. However, I had, and this was spun from roving, I think. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that. Yeah. The lady that is raising this is the lady that is raising mostly Black Welsh Mountain, but she has a flock of Shetland, and she had the fiber put up into roving. So this was spun from roving. Now, I have spun Shetland top from the UK that actually it was from Shetland Wool Week. So it was purchased, where they have the whole week celebrating the Shetland sheep and everything about the Shetland sheep, the Shetland Wool Week. That was just incredibly fine and spun fine, and it was top, so it spun fine anyway, as opposed to roving. So you have a vast difference in what kind of Shetland you get, right? It's going to be probably soft to your hand and neck. Most likely it's going to be various different colors because they come in colors, but you could get lots of different kinds of skeins of yarn out of Shetland, and depending on how the genetics was of the sheep and how fine the wool was and how it was processed. Having said all that, this is because every time I show this skein, I want to apologize. I'm sorry. This is Shetland. Because everybody thinks of Shetland as lace weight. And it's not, right? It's not lace weight at all. So let's take a look when I did this. I think I did this during the Tour de Fleece, but let me figure that out. Let me look at this on my Ravelry. All right. And I know if I just search Shetland, I'm going to get quite a few hits, but that's all right. I can figure it out. I don't get that many hits on my stash. Want to know how much Shetland I've spun over the years? All right. I had a 4-pack of top, very small amount, 4 different colors. I had a black Shetland that I spun. I had a fleece that I bought white locally and dyed it in about, I don't know, 8 different colors one time. That was Shetland John. I had the Shetland Wool Week that I spun. I have a tan that I have no idea where I got that fiber. I don't think anyway. Let me see if it's in here. Nope. I have no idea where I got that fiber. I had a dyed Shetland that I did into a 3-ply chain. I had a Shetland that was, I bought the fleece from and home processed. It was grays and browns. And I had a red Shetland that I bought the fleece and home processed. Nowhere in these here is the, I got to go back to the fiber because nowhere in the yarns, I didn't make a page for this Shetland yarn. Was that my not wanting to, I'm looking for fiber stash, there we go. Not wanting to admit it's Shetland. All right. Huh. I am gonna have to search it. I got too many here. I'm searching under my fiber. See if I just didn't make yarn. Page. Aw, I can't believe I never even put the fiber in there. This is not good. This is where it really... Oh, no, there it is. There's the fiber. Okay. The Shetland fiber was the kind of preparation where it looks like the fiber had been rolled out. You know, it was maybe 2 inches wide and very flat. So I'm not 100% sure if that's top or roving, okay? But I have a picture of it here, and let me see if it says in the... It doesn't say on the tag either. And that's very unusual to spin, all right? I did not get a lot of good drafting for that. And I had a total of 5 ounces, had to spin 4 ounces. So this is, I spun the whole 5 ounces, and I have not made a yarn yet. Let me get some of the basic details here in there. And for those of you who are stopping in and just listening, haven't been listening all along, what I'm doing here is these are all going to get submitted to the livestock Passport program, Shave 'em to Save 'em, with a picture to an email. And with every 5 projects that I submit, I qualify for a prize. And they're usually like knitting bags and, I mean, that kind of thing. There might be a t-shirt or something like that. But it's generally something that is going to be advertising the Livestock Conservancy. It might say Passport program. I hope so. That would be a nice little memento. But I'm working on getting the pictures taken so that I can submit my first 5. These were all spun in 2020. So that gives you a little bit of a recap. And also lets you know the reason I keep going back to a notebook to look at notes, because I didn't always get everything taken care of. Like, I didn't make a Ravelry page for this yarn, and I'm in the process of catching that up too. So I have no idea. I bought the fiber in May 1st, and I think I was spinning all of this stuff in October. Get my daily notes here. So let me see if it was in October, like I think. Started Shetland October 4th on the Ara, and I did it on a live stream. Okay, so I mostly was spinning on the Ara during the live streams, and I went on to finished the first bobbin on the 6th, started the 2nd, finished the 2nd and plied it on the 7th. So I started on the 4th and I finished on the 7th. And that's 5 ounces. So here's my yarn page. I'm going to mark it as finished. And I started, go back to 2020, on the 4th of October, and I finished on the 7th. Ooh, 2020. All right. Now I have a 2-ply as I was making all of these. And the wraps per inch is huge. It says 12. I don't believe it. It's not all that stretchy. And I just don't like the wraps per inch measurement anymore, and I don't really have a good way to do the grist, which is the McMorran balance. I've never invested in that, so I pretty much ignore the wraps per inch, even though I document it. I always try and do that. Let's see, I did it on the Ara, and it's got the fiber there. And I have on here, according to this, 200 yards, which is actually quite a bit. That's a little over 5 ounces of fiber. And I'll just save that quickly and catch some more of the details up later. And since I talked a lot about the different kinds of Shetlands and everything, I don't have too much to add as far as this skein goes. Okay. I need to get, it's just very bulky. And I find that surprising. And I am blaming the prep. I am blaming that somewhat compacted, I don't know if it was roving or top. Okay. That's what I think is the problem. And I didn't make any notes about how I spun it, but it's going to be one of two ways. It's going to be pinch and pull, or it's going to be a semi-woolen. where I pull back on the fiber. And it just depends on how it fed, into the drafting zone. They're going to look at that and say, that's not shelling. I wonder if I'll have trouble getting this one qualified. All right, I'm going to take this picture. Oh, I didn't write on here. I purchased that on my birthday, which is May 1st. And this is yarn skein. And I was done 10/7/20. I feel like I'm going to have to name these emails incoming since I'm going to send 5 of them. Here's get my camera. I wonder if I can do, well, I need to do it this way, I think. There we go. All right, that looks messy. Let me get this better. How about some twist? Never underestimate the power of a little bit of tension to make a yarn look better. Yeah, that looks a lot better. All right. And that is number 4 of the 5. I will tell you, thank you, anybody who's watching this now or later, for indulging me in getting some of my actual work done. This is, people ask me what I do, and I say, I do fiber work. What does that mean? Well, this is part of it right here, this kind of stuff. All right, we're going to go to the white tablecloth here because we have 2 gray fibers. Leicester and Cotswold. So let's go to back into the back here. Go back and find Leicester. Let's see. It is Cotswold. Let's do Cotswold first. That is under threatened. And I have 2 skeins. One little one because my yarn broke when I was skeining it. I do remember that. I was quite upset. That is a lovely, lovely gray, isn't it? I love that. Now, I happen to have right here to hand, the way I save my fibers, I just did not pull this out for everything else and happened to find it right as I was gathering stuff for this. So it actually needs to get stored away in the breed files eventually. But this is what the fiber looked like. It is so soft. Just like a kitten. It's just like a kitten. And I can now show you, I can't show you the way the skein, the tube of fiber was in here, okay? But this was the fleece, this was the tag that was around it, and I said that Wohela Tunis does the brand what they call fleece with a face, and I mean, who could not love that face? Oh my gosh. Yeah, can you imagine having that in your backyard? I am so a farmer, and I am so past my farming days. Been there, done that, just no longer can do it. But that is a Cotswold, and I love it. And I do believe that this is she does put the names on here, and this is, ready for it, Mr. Darcy. I know, I love this picture. Anyway, that's how the fiber came when I bought, and I bought a lot of fiber from this lady. I can totally recommend her as a source. So, Cotswold. I bought it May 25th. Let's see what I got in my Ravelry first, because that helps me find my notes if I made any. Let's go to back to search. They say that, of course, the original source of the Cotswold was England. It is a threatened status. It gives a micron count of 33 to 42. I obviously got a fiber at the lower end, the 33 end, because it is very soft. Oh, I have no matches for Cotswold. Well, let's go back and search fiber. I don't have any yarns, I guess. Or was that where I was searching? Is it not in here at all? Or did I spell it wrong? Yep, there's... Okay, I have to make the yarn. Uh-oh, that means I have to go look it up and figure out when I actually spun it. And that means I have to go look at all the notes. I'm sure that I will start with the October, because that seems to be when I was doing most of it. So we'll start in October, see what it says. Looking for Cotswold. There we go. I spun it during the live stream October 6th. I got most of the first bobbin done, spun the rest, and the second bobbin later that day. And so I did it. I spun the 4 ounces in one day. I started it on the 6th, and I plied it on the 7th of October. I was a busy little bee in October, let me tell you. And I was streaming an awful lot of it, too. So let me put that in Ravelry. The yarn is finished. I love it. And I started October 6th. Finished it October 7th. And it is gray, and it's a tag of SESE, which I've been forgetting to put in the other ones. What do I have here? It's a 13 wraps per inch, and I believe it. It looks it. It's a 2-ply. And I have a total of, this is 108, and this is 30. So I have a total of 138 yards. I have no notes, unfortunately, about it. It was a roving. I know that I probably spun it semi-worsted, because that's the way I spin most of these. It was a fast spin, obviously. Very, very lovely to spin. It's soft to my hands. It is just under soft to my neck. I mean, just under it. I'd tolerate. I love this color. I love making men's hats and scarves out of this color. I think it is a very perfect masculine color. I love over dyeing this color because you get depth to your color whenever you over dye a gray or brown yarn. The 2-ply is pretty consistent. It's a little tiny bit barber poled, as you can see, which would be nice not to over dye because that's going to add a lot of interest to a knitted fabric. And it really is a wonderful yarn to spin. I mean, a fiber to spin. It reminds me of, let me think, reminds me of Jacob, and it's a softer than Border Leicester. It's, I don't know, Romney. It's softer, a little softer than Romney. So it's a little softer, and I don't know how specific that's going to be. Whether that's, something that's just because this particular one, whoever raised this had a good sheep, right? It could be that. It could be that. Okay, so that is Cotswold, and I can put this on here. I purchased this in my second order from her, May 25th. And this is 2 skeins yarn. And I completed it 10. What did I say, 7? I think so. Yeah, 10-7. All right, let me get a picture of this. I gotta get something to drink too. I am talking a lot this stream. I don't talk this much, especially on Sundays when I'm spinning. Thursdays, I'm often doing throwback patterns, and I'm concentrating on trying to figure out a pattern, right? So this is unusual, but Tuesdays are pretty chatty for me. I don't know how to best present this picture-wise. The 2-yard skeins are hard to put into that kind of ball that you do with the shorter skeins. It could be that way. I think that looks pretty good, except for that messy tie. And my yellow tag. Let's hide the yellow tag if I can. Oh my goodness. It's everywhere. The yarn is everywhere. Almost wish I could have not had a picture of the skein, but a picture of a swatch. But that's one extra step I probably wouldn't have done. All right, not happening. And this has to cover up Dorset Horn, so it's got to go on this side. And it says Cotswold there. I love this gray. I do. I love this gray. Wonder if I can lift this up, these strands up a little bit to show how pretty the barber pulling is with the 2 natural colors. Trying to get a little creative here with the... No, that don't work. I am not a photographer, let me tell you. Okay, there is an immensely long pause here that I will delete out of the podcast because I can't find a way to make this look good at all. That's not bad. Let's go with that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let me do the same thing with the little one so I have them side by side, big and little. Okay, I'm happy with that. I finally got it. And what I did was the long skein, I just took the whole long skein and twirled it, and then made a longer wrapped up skein. And it looks pretty good. Looks real good on the camera. That looks real good. All right. I'm talking about the live stream camera. But one more. I have one left. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my 5th. So these are the 5 I'll submit. And then I have one more that I will hold and not submit until I get 4 more to go with it. Submit them 5 at a time. And the last one, and then we will close up this stream. Boy, that worked out perfect. It's almost the 2 hours. This is Leicester Longwool. And I almost said Lincoln Longwool, but we already did the Lincoln. So this is Leicester Longwool. And Leicester Longwool always, Leicester is always the word Longwool after it. Lincoln, you'll hear it both ways. Just Lincoln and Lincoln Longwool. Okay. Let's find where Leicester is. I think it's in the thread. Yep. I also bought this from Wohalia. So this was a sheep with a name, and that would have been fun to pull all those out and have. Sorry about that. That was just a bit too much than I was not really prepared for. Let's see here. I got it on March 11th, and I don't really know when I spun this, so we're going to have to get the little notebook back. Well, let's check Ravelry. I had a system going here, and I'm kind of fading with my focus here, I think. So let's look for my notebook stash. Let's look and see if I have the fiber in the stash. I have not spun much Leicester Longwool. L-E-I. She spells it C-E-S. Is that right? Yeah, C-E-S-T-E-R. Let's see what Leicester brings up. Ooh, it didn't bring up anything. You're serious? I don't have anything? Not even the fiber in here? Let me look at Wohalia. Wohala is what it is. I'm saying it wrong. Wohala. Okay. Let's see. I'm having some problem here. Just double checking. Just double checking that it's being funky with the search. There's the Lincoln. Let me go up to the L's. No Lester. Ooh. Well, this one's going to take a little bit of work. I may have to actually dive into where I store these little fiber supplies and try and pull it out. What else can I search under here? Wait a minute. Yeah, I got this. Okay. Had a little moment there. I thought maybe I was looking for the wrong source. All right, I know I went quiet, but I'm looking. Just to be sure I don't have... I never did get... I got Lincoln, Cotswold, and Dorset Horn in there. I never did get the Leicester Longwool in there. Okay. I'm going to not include it in this stream, actually. Although I will let you see it and just give you a real brief. First of all, it's extremely fuzzy, has a halo. It is not even quite soft on my hands, so definitely not on my neck. It is loosely spun. It would have been that roving that I get from her. So it was the same processed, same. It is a long wool and it has extremely long locks. And when you get the long locks, if you comb those and spin it, you can get a very smooth, smoother yarn. But when they're jumbled up all together into a fiber prep, you get this halo. And I like the gray, but I don't like the gray quite as much as I do the lighter. It's pretty consistent gray-brown, and it was probably one that I would over dye. Had a little more vegetable matter in it in the prep. And I got, it's 11 wraps per inch, and that's probably pretty accurate. And I got 120 yards out of the 4 ounces. So I probably will do a little more. Oh, and it has that silkiness. It doesn't really have the luster as much with the dark, what am I trying to say? The dark color, but it has that little bit of a silky feel. And I am going to go ahead and take a picture of this. I don't have when I completed it on there. Before I take my picture, I really want to do that. And so I'll just keep chattering here a little bit while I look in my notebook and see if I can find when I spun Leicester Longwool. Let's see if I can find that in my notes. I'm going to check the Turd of Fleece notes here first. I did a lot of different stuff during the turtle fleece. We had 2 turtle fleeces last year. All right. And I was doing a lot of breed studies then too, so. I was working on the Icelandic, the Shetland Wool Week Shetland, going on here, don't see it. I was spinning a lot of the dyed Shetland that I had done during that time. Okay. The only thing I spun during the first turtle fleece was for the SESE was the Lincoln. I wonder if I have anything during the second one, which was in September. All right. May have to continue this later and do a little more research. I'm not going to take this much more time. I've taken lots of time already. I think it's time to say good night, Gracie. Oh my goodness. It looks nice on the camera when I'm looking at it there. Thank you for your indulgence. For those who are listening and those who are watching and letting me get up some of my work done. I am feeling very much on a deadline because I know I'm not going to get too much more done. I only have the month of March, not even all of it. After my surgery, it truly will be June or July before I do too much. The knee surgery the healing time prevents me from sitting in a chair like I'm sitting here. I can spin on my Roberta. I don't have any trouble doing that, but I have to prop my leg up straight sometimes in order not to be in pain. I do plan to stream during that time, and I have no idea what that means, right? It's probably going to be very short periods, more often during the week or something like that. We'll figure that out when we get there. But right now, there are things that I'm trying to get done before, and this SESE submission is one of them. And I'm going to get 5 of them in today because you all shared the process with me. So I will talk to you next in 2 days on Thursday. We will be looking at a throwback pattern from one of my vintage books and see what madness we can get into with that and whether I can actually make something with directions that I have no clue what they're saying, right? and then on Sunday afternoon, I will be spinning the Masham fiber that I dyed. So that's a week full, and I hope you join me then. Thanks for sticking around, and until later, happy spinning.